Bob and Betty, thanks again for having me over.
You're welcome.
Welcome back. Good to see you.
Yeah, you always make time for me, and I appreciate that because I know your schedules are busy. How are things going?
He gives us a run for our money, but we're doing okay.
Yeah, Rudy's been doing a lot better.
Yeah, I'd say so. He is doing much better.
Yeah, we've worked together for about 2 years doing this.
Yeah, 2 long years.
Yeah.
What I wanted to talk to you about specifically, I know the last couple of years we've been working on him being stable, and that's taken a little while,
Yeah.
with school and stuff and everything, but he's doing really well now. What we're trying to do a focus on right now, and the agency itself is focusing on, is called permanency teaming. And I know we talked a little bit about it before.
Right.
What we're trying to do is look at kids and the supports that they need as a plan for the future. What kind of resources they'll need, the kind of family support that they'll need.
Oh, he'll have us.
He'll have you,
We're
which is
his
good.
support.
Absolutely.
I had a chance to meet with Rudy, and we talked about who he would like to be as a part of his team, and he did identify working with you as part of that team.
Oh, good.
So who else do you think might be in a team with him? People who you think might be important for him in doing this?
In my time with Rudy, he's talked about Joe because
Okay.
he works on cars with Joe. So that might make sense to me.
His cousin Joe?
His cousin Joe.
Okay.
Well, that was back in the old days. I mean, he hasn't seen him in a couple of years. I wonder about introducing people back in that really haven't been like an everyday part of his life.
Well, Betty, he does talk to me about Joe
Okay.
and the memories of Joe when they worked on the car. So, I mean, it's just putting that on the table.
So it sounds like Joe is somebody that's important to him to be a part of his team. And Joe, Harriet is his mom. Have you had an opportunity ever to meet Harriet?
We never did. No,
No.
she, as far as we know, she just kind of said goodbye to him, and that was it. Never saw him again.
He has talked about her a little bit, not as much as Joe, but just, once or twice in passing in the couple of years that we've been with him. So,
When I talked to Rudy, he did identify Aunt Harriet
Oh.
as somebody that he would like to be a part of his team. How do you guys feel about that? I told him that before we took any steps like that, we would definitely talk with you and see how you felt about that. How are you feeling about that?
I wonder what this is going to mean to his progress over the last couple of years. He was so hurt. It was really hard for him. We worked hard to kind of get everything straight, get the behavior okay, and I don't know, Claudia.
Okay.
I think, I support it. I mean, in my conversations with Rudy, he's becoming an older teen now, and I know it might be difficult to meet her. I'd like to know more about her and how she might support Rudy.
Yeah, I mean, really, if he's identified as part of his team, it means that she's important to him, just like he's identified you. But it sounds like there's some work that we need to do prior to all of us meeting together as a group.
I mean, we need to know what Aunt Harriet would like to have.
Okay.
Does she want him back in her life? What's that going to mean for us?
Okay, so it's something that's important to get answered.
Because we would like him to stay with us. I mean, we've been making
Okay.
really good progress with him, so that's important to both Betty and I,
Okay.
that he stay with us.
Have you and Rudy had conversations about him staying with you?
Well, we've talked about his future in college and stuff. Kind of.
He knows. We just, we don't have to talk about that kind of stuff. He just knows he's going to be here and
Okay.
part of our family. We really feel like he's part of our family.
I'm really sure he has a sense that he's going to be with us for a long time. I mean,
Okay.
who really can move on at 18? I mean, our
Okay.
twins weren't able to do that.
Nope.
We still help them.
Well, I think sometimes you know it.
Yeah.
You have it, but it sounds like you really haven't had a conversation with him. I'd be curious to know what he's thinking because I don't know if he's seeing exactly the same way that you see it.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Does he tell you something different than he tells us?
Well, one of the things I think that's helpful with this team meeting is that we can have meetings in between that so that maybe you can have a conversation with him about what he's thinking since it sounds like you guys really haven't had a chance to talk about it. So before we have the group meeting, it might be helpful for me to sit with you and with Rudy and talk about how you feel about him and how he feels about being in this home and his long-term plans for being here.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, he knows we care deeply for him. So, yeah, that makes a lot of sense to sit down and talk with him
Okay.
more formally. Because I think that we've been more kind of implicit in our desires to have him with us but we do want him.
So it sounds like I'll do that. I'll meet with you guys. How are you feeling about the whole Aunt Harriet thing? Do you feel like we can meet with her and talk about it also?
I'm fine with that. I have probably less concerns than Betty does. I mean, but that's fine. I
He
mean,
always takes things very easy, you know. I have to do all the worrying in this family.
Okay.
she does. She does. I'm more laid back.
But it does make me nervous. I hope Rudy doesn't get hurt in the process.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think would be? I mean, what do you think would happen?
If he wants Aunt Harriet and his cousin back in his life,
Okay.
we don't know how they feel. And maybe he wants too much from them.
Okay.
And he might be confused too. I mean, that's another thing that might be concerning, that he's confused about who we should be with. So
Yeah, I think what's important to understand is that in this process, we're not talking necessarily about placement.
mhm.
We're talking about planning for his future because kids really need to know who they can count on. And birth family, his family, is very important to him. I
Mhm.
mean, you know, he called them blood. You know, I mean, my blood family.
Right, right.
You know that. I'm sure he has traditions and things with them. And if he's identified, and we've learned that if you don't help people to, or help Rudy, or help kids to really plan with these, with individuals that they've identified, that they will go off and do it on their own. You had teenagers.
Yeah,
you
we know.
They will go off and do it on their own. So I think it would be a good thing to do it in a process where we're planning as a group and bring those individuals in. I understand that you have concerns, but I think those are conversations that we can have. This is our first, I mean, really just the beginning of a conversation with about this. But I think it's very important for him that he knows what's going on.
That makes a lot of sense, because I agree with you. I think that he might just try to do this all on his own, but if he's pulled into this meeting and he figures out what he wants,
Yes.
that might be more helpful than just him doing it on his own.
And I
I
think,
hope so.
yeah, I know. I know you have concerns, Betty. I think what would be helpful is that we can plan these meetings ahead of time. I know before I meet with Rudy, and I talked to Rudy about meeting with Aunt Harriet, but I want to make sure that that's okay with you. But it sounds like you have concerns also. What I can do is before we have a large meeting, I can set up a time. I want to be able to meet with Aunt Harriet, and then be able to set up a time if you're willing to sit with her, and maybe we can address some of those concerns. Would that be helpful?
That makes sense.
That would be really helpful.
Yeah.
Again, this is just the beginning of it. What I'll do is I'll get back to you with the time once I get in contact with her. And I just also want to make sure it's okay to meet with Rudy and her.
Yeah,
Is that okay?
that's fine. Now you're hesitant, Betty.
Well, I'm gonna trust you.
You've known me
okay?
you've known me for a long time.
All right.
We're going to make sure that we make this a very safe process, okay? So what I'll do is I'll get back to you and we'll set those times up.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Bye, hon.